how do you move forward? And then I think the next point is, how do you do that? How do you move forward? And I think then you sort of start thinking about this whole topic of defense in depth. We've heard the term defense in depth. And I think if we take a look at it, there's a lot of activity around the evolution of the cryptography to support these application layers, often referred to as public key cryptography and public key infrastructure. And there's bodies such as NIST in the US and around the world looking to evolve these PQC algorithms. And due to the nature of them, the truth of the matter is, we need to learn. I think a defense in depth approach makes a lot of sense. All right. Especially as if you're using different types of cryptography at the various layers. You might be using mathematical type cryptography in the application layer, all right, or some network layers. But then in an additive and complementary approach, you might be using other types of symmetrical-based cryptography, whether it's be public shared keys. We're hearing a lot about quantum key distribution. So I think it makes a lot of sense to do this additive approach. And I think if we take a step back and honestly look at this, we've relied on this single layer of cryptography. Ironically, we have actually used for some critical infrastructures, we've actually used a defense in depth approach with different layers of cryptography, different types of cryptography. And I think if we really took an honest look at this, we probably find that a lot of our digitalization, we've been lucky, all right, in the past, all right? A lot of it needs this defense in depth approach, with this additive complementary based approach. And let's be honest, the stakes are growing, all right? We need what we digitalize, what we transfer around now, and we need to be prepared in this defense in depth approach to look at what we know or potentially know about quantum safe attacks and future advances in code breaking. So I think we're kind of looking at sort of two areas, crypto agility and cryptographic defense in depth in a prioritized way. Okay, that's the way I'm taking out of this now.
Yeah, I mean, to push on my example of that I mentioned a minute ago, imagine now that, so here, just a defense in depth kind of example, right? So, okay, their voice communication between different entities is perhaps less critical than private information about events that might have occurred or incidents or personal information about people that might be affected there. And that's just another way of saying data center, connection between data centers. So in that example, making it a little hypothetical now, they need to or ought to be thinking about securing that first vulnerability between those two data centers. So maybe that's an optical layer attack or a prevention that they put in place initially. And then later on, maybe there are interconnections between other agencies or other users that they protect, up at a higher layer. So in other words, they've got multiple layers of protections going in place. But before they even get to that, right, they need to, as should any operator, first assess their vulnerabilities. What are their most sensitive connection points? What are the most sensitive links, if you will, between operations or data centers, and protect those first. Take a first action, develop a plan. And it's not that this is the sort of issue where you, I don't know, buy a single product and put it in place and one is done. It's really something that's it needs to become a practice. It needs to become something that is included in the way that they plan and operate their networks into the future.
This defense in depth to use different types of cryptography in a very additive and complementary way, potentially in a targeted way. I mean, if you've got the granularity to apply, at the lower optical layer or at the higher data networking layers, because you need certain granularities for different types of traffic, then we need to do that. And I think, let's take the heat. I mean, the industry experts on this, on cryptography, have been warning for years on this fragility. All right, it's now. It's the quantum paradigm. The quantum computing is coming online, and now is the time to take a step back and say, okay, let's take the learnings. Let's not make the same mistakes again, and let's move forward, taking steps today to actually put in place the frameworks. We have the tools. We can provide the tools.
Yeah, indeed. And, just to be clear, this whole discussion isn't just, for the ultra top secret government networks. Yeah. It's for that, but it's also for any imaginable network, we believe, right? Any enterprise, any critical infrastructure, utilities, it could also be, and certainly is even service providers, because those service providers are touching every type of enterprise or individual user. And exactly what they do depends upon their business model and how they might actually, touch their end customers. So, I mean, I think of it as to kind of wrap this thing up in my mind anyway, it's an issue where we know that quantum computing is growing in power very strong. We know that bad state actors are tapping networks and storing data for later decryption. Once a quantum computer that's powerful enough to execute Grover's algorithm actually exists. And we know that the solution is not all that complicated. I mean, there's a little bit of work, a little bit of forethought that has to be put into it, a little bit of planning. And, we Nokia have a lot of tools to draw, a lot of levers to pull to be able to create what we call a quantum safe network.
Yeah, and I think it's important that as we move forward, as we work in partnership with our customers, we've got to adapt to their business needs. All right. We've got to be able to help them scale their quantum deployment, automation, etc. And also as part of this partnership, we need to help them to evolve as the quantum landscape will adjust, evolve, migrate over the coming years. All right, thanks, Chris. I should let you go. I know it's a little dark over there. I can see it. So have a good evening, sir. And I'll speak to you when you're back online.
We'll continue again.
Yeah.